Really glad to have you here, Swati. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
Rise. Yes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rekha Verma, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think it's a wonderful platform that you've created. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about, this new thing that I'm going to talk about today. So, yeah, so like Ms. Rekha has, already introduced me. Welcome everyone to the session today. I am Swati Arora. Just a brief about me. I carry over 2 decades of experience, couple of 22 years of experience into training and coaching industry, into the services industry, and now I'm a certified business coach as well as a life coach. I'm an NLP practitioner as well, a certified NLP practitioner, and I just done my emotional intelligence coach certification as well. So, yeah, here I am. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic which, since I've been doing business coaching a lot these days, and I have a lot of clients coming up, particularly entrepreneurs, particularly budding entrepreneurs. I thought, let me start up with a topic which will really relate to new startup businesses, and what things we need to keep in mind. What are the small nuances? What are the things that you need to really look at when you're starting a new business? So I just thought I'll bring that in this platform today. And like I said, startups could be anything. So I help a lot of women entrepreneurs. I help a lot of entrepreneurs across the country, in fact across the globe as well. I have certain clients from Dubai and Kuwait as well, where I'm talking about how to start up a business, where I help them in growing their business and scaling up to the next level. So things which are and like I said, businesses of all fraternity, not specific to one area. So I have clients who are fashion designers, I have clients who are jewelry designers, I have e-commerce experts, digital marketers who are my clients, and so on and so forth. So I just thought I'll bring about my experience, what I have learned in this business coaching arena, and what we need to be mindful about when you're starting up your business. So a couple of things on that, Ms. Verma, if you allow me, I can probably start off with the,
Yes,
yeah,
please,
okay.
please go ahead.
Okay,
Yes.
wonderful, wonderful. So the first thing that I want to, kind of highlight and kind of put a emphasis on when you're starting a business is to get or to gather your niche, or what we say in sales, your USP. We say USP is unique selling point. Well, I think, and a lot of people tell me, Swati, unique selling point is for product and services, not for the person or for the entrepreneur. I
Mm.
kind of take it, I kind of stamp it and say, no, it's for the entrepreneur as well. What is your unique selling point? What is your niche? Now, just give, I'll give my own example and a couple of examples to kind of prove the point. So there are a lot of coaches in the industry, right? There are different types of coaches. There are happiness coaches, there are life coaches, there are career coaches, there are mental health coaches, etc. Now, when you enter the coaching fraternity, do you want to be like a, do it all kind of a person? Do you want to be jack of all trades and master of none? Or do you want to be called a specialized into something? Just like in medical profession, we have, one is a general physician, and then you have a surgeon, you have a dermatologist, you have an oncologist, you have an ophthalmologist, all of that. You have a child specialist. So I know if I have a problem with my child, I want to take my child for a treatment, I'll go to a child specialist. I won't go for a general physician. Similarly, in every profession there is a USP, there is a niche. If I have, so I was talking to this client the other day, and she was a fashion designer. When I asked her, what is your USP? What is your niche? She was startled. She was looking around and she was like wondering, well, I design clothes of all genre. And that's when I said, that's something which you need to introspect in yourself. What are you good at? What do you like? What resonates to you? Do you like more of Western clothing? Do you like jazzy stuff? Or you're more of a subtle person, like office look or that formal look? What do you resonate? Because you're your brand ambassador. Tomorrow when you go out in the market, you're not going to be XYZ. You're going to be, your name is going to be the brand. You're going to be the product. So what is that you are? That's what first thing I want to talk about, is that the niche is something which is very very important in any business startup. And how do you find the niche? Is by getting into your interest level. What is that is drawing you attention to in your particular genre? What are you keen at in your arena of things? It could be anything. Once you find the niche, once you find your USP, then it becomes easier to approach in the market, because then you will know who's your target audience. If I know I'm more of a jazzy person when it talks about when I talk about fashion designing, then I know what kind of segment of audience that I need to look at, and I would, once I know the audience, I would know where to approach those audience, where will I get those audience. Otherwise, Miss Verma, what happens is people just, it's like shooting bullets in all angles, in all directions, and not hitting the
Yes.
bullseye. That's what I say. So niche is very, very important, so that you can reach the right audience at the right time. And so yeah, a little bit of introspection on the niche is very important from when you're starting up. When you grow in the business, obviously you come to know those details, but I think in the beginning also, if you do a little bit of introspection, a little bit of planning around it, I think that will really give a very good head start to your business. The second point,
I just want to interrupt, Swati.
yeah, sure.
Swati, I just want to interrupt.
Sure.
Veena Pujar is asking, what is USB?
USP is unique selling
USB.
point. Yeah, unique selling point. So when we say unique in sales, it's a very commonly used term.
Yes.
So when we
Yes.
say unique selling point, so for example, if I talk about a mobile, if I'm talking about a mobile, what is the unique selling point of this mobile as compared to any other mobile? What is this
Yes.
very good at? That will be my catch line. And if I have to market a brand, what you see in those slogans or in those banners, you see the catch line, right? The best ever video quality. What is that? That's the
Yeah.
USP of that particular
Yes.
product. So yeah, so USP or niche, I would say, goes hand in hand. Niche is more for a person specific. USP, we generally put it for a brand or a service. Yeah.
Absolutely right. Yes.
Okay. So sure. So, yeah, thanks a lot, Meena, for that good question. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to, kind of explain that. Uh,
Yeah.
the second thing, Rekha, that we want to talk about, I mean, when you talk about in a business startup, is researching is very important, especially when you're starting out a business. Researching, I feel, is very important. And how do you research? You research by talking to people. You read a lot. You read a lot of articles, read a lot of things around it. Get more data around your particular area of business. Talk to the right people, not don't talk to everyone and anyone. Like, if you're talking to
Yeah.
people who are not from that business segment, will not be able to give you fruitful ideas. But talking to people, it could also be good if you could start up as an intern in that particular profession. Like, I will give you my example here again. I also own a content writing business. Okay, so I
Okay.
started off 2.5 years back, and I in my content writing team, I have a good start, setup team, and they work for me. And all female population. We have only female writers. So
Oh,
how did I?
fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I believe personally that very creative writers. Women are very creative writers. So
Yes.
I kind of handpicked a few of them. But the idea came from, obviously, I had this niche for writing from my childhood age, but from my childhood years. But I wanted to kind of understand the business, so I didn't want to plunge into the business by myself, going out as a content writing company myself. So what I did was I interned with another content writing company. I spent
Okay.
good 6 months with them. I became a writer. Then I got, kind of, I took on more responsibilities. I became a manager for them. Like, I was managing their various other writers. I was handling their clients. I was handling their marketing. So in those 6 months, I gathered everything with respect to the content marketing company, the business
Okay.
basically. So
Okay.
who are the clients? Where do you get the clients from? Where do you get the writers from? How do you assess the writers? How do you strike a deal with the clients? Which niche will be charged how much? All of that, or what kind of quality do you need to give? How do you check the quality? How do you check the
Mhm.
plagiarism? So lot of things, in a business there's multiple processes.
Yes,
So
yes. Lot of aspects.
a good idea would be, if you want to start a business, rather than starting, if you, until unless you know everything about it, wonderful, you can jump into it. But if not, then might as well work as an intern with someone, or might as well shadow someone. Like they say in NLP, we call it modeling. modeling
Hmm.
someone. If I am a successful entrepreneur, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I just need to, look at that successful entrepreneur and say, okay, what did she do to go up to that level? I'm sure she also started from somewhere. What was the
Yes.
journey about? Can I model that journey? Can I imitate that journey? I think that becomes more easier for any new startup, and you don't want to, fall flat as well by reinventing the wheel. We have in startups, generally people have limited finances and limited resources, so it's better
Yeah,
to research a lot before you experiment into something. Yeah.
that's true.
Okay. Yeah. You had a question on something,
No,
Rekha?
no, no, I continue.
Okay. Okay. So I'll go ahead.
So
So
is it
research.
good to, yeah, I would just
Yeah.
ask one thing. Is it good to take advice for business from people? And who would be those people?
Yeah, it's good
What
to
kind
take
of,
advice. It is definitely, Rekha, it's definitely very good to take advice. I think
yeah.
I would say that, while it is your idea, while it is, a person's idea individually to start their business, but I think the more heads thinking about it, the more ideas you will get. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
always good to talk about it. But again, I would say select the people that you want to talk to. Like what you said, you
Mhm.
rightly pointed out who should be the people talking to.
Yeah.
You
But
should
how
not.
do you select? How do
So
you select when you are new into it? You
when you're
don't
new
know
into it.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, obviously, when you're in your relatives, you can look at people who are experienced in that particular arena or similar structure. For example, I'm starting out a business of, say, education. For example, I'm putting up a education institute. I may not have many people in my family who are educationists, but I may
Yeah.
have people from a business background from my family. Do I
Mm.
understand the nuances of the business functioning from them? I can do that. I'm not
Yeah.
asking specific education related questions, but I can find out that. And then you have to break down your questions also into such, subcategories. Regarding
Mm.
business, I will ask X. Regarding education, I will ask Y. And
Yes.
or maybe you can also ask for references. It's good to talk to people because you'll get references. How do I get connected to? A lot of times I've seen, it's a good idea. You can get associated. There are a lot of groups, like in coaching also, we have these peer coaching groups. We have international peer coaching groups. I'm part of a lot of them. So it's a good idea because you come to know best practice sharing. In teaching fraternity also, I've seen a lot of groups, like you also have a platform similar to that. It's like
Mm.
for women, it's like a entrepreneurial group, right? So
Yes.
what are
Yes.
the best practices that we are sharing? So someone who joins your group can know what are the different best practices other, businesses also are doing. And it's an
Yeah.
idea for growth. So joining such associations, such small communities will really help you, come up with new ideas. So yeah, that you can talk to more and more people about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to point out is, and that's something which is missing a lot of times I see, is that when I ask people, what's your business plan, what's your business goal, oh, there's a question mark. 90%
Mm.
of the time I see, okay, business plan, I just want to be a successful businessman, or I want to be a successful entrepreneur. By the end of this year, I want to be settled in my business. That's the kind of answer that I get. Well, I
Mm.
would say that's not a very good way to start, because success, like I said, success is like something which pertains to me may not pertain to you. I may think as success as $100 million in my account as a bank balance, but someone else could
Yes.
have something else in mind. So then what you need to do is write out. And it's very good. I mean, I'm a strong believer of writing your goals, writing your plans. Write out your
Okay.
goals in a very specific way, in a very specific format. Write the date that you want to achieve that goal by, how you will achieve, what do you have right now with you, what are the resources that you have right now with you, the education, the knowledge, the experience, whatever you have in your hand, what are the resources you need, to acquire that success. How will you come to know that you achieve that success? Break it down into chunks. If I have a 1 year plan for my business, how much should I reach by the 3 months, by the end of this quarter? How much should I reach
Mm.
by the end of 2 quarters? So if you write down everything in a piece of paper, it becomes a logical business plan. And for you to measure and kind of tick mark and say, okay, this one I'm done. Now, first level crossed. Just like playing a video game, first level
Yeah.
crossed. And then I need to go to the next level. so on and so forth. You will be able to elevate only if you have something very specific, measurable, time bound written in your goal. I have just put up a wonderful video, Rekha. You may want to go and for everyone, I would say, suggest, you may
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to go and check. I also have a YouTube channel by the name of Mind Coach Swati. I think about a week back, I've put on goal setting. I have demonstrated and elaborated the NLP way of goal setting. We call it well defined outcome. So
Okay.
yeah, we heard about the smart goals, but this is a little one level above. So if someone has to really pen down their goals in that particular format, and I'm a strong believer, I personally myself write down my goals and put myself onto a timeline, and I by far have, touch wood, by the grace of God, have been able to achieve my goals, whatever I set out for, because I don't set out unreasonable goals. I set out
Yes.
goals in small chunks, and I also help my clients do that. A lot of times
Okay.
people come and say, I want to lose 30 kgs in 1 month. I said, hello, wonderful, that's great. But when was the last time you did that? you know, no chance of doing that. So, I mean, let's not aim for something which is absolutely
Not,
unreasonable. Yeah, not
yes.
possible. So yeah, goal setting, a proper goal setting, I am a strong propagator that a businessman, any businessman, any career oriented person should have a strong proper goal setting done, should have a timeline activity done at least once before starting up his business, his or her business, so that you know exactly what, where, when you are going to achieve. Yeah. So yeah, and anyone who wants to go for a proper goal setting, I'll be more than happy to do that. I definitely do it for all my clients. That's the first thing that I do when I start up any business assignment. That's the first thing that I
Mhm.
do. I put them on a goal setting plan. It definitely is a
Okay.
cumbersome activity, because timeline is like an activity where you think through everything, all the contingency plans, all the things which can go wrong, which can go right, everything. But it's worthwhile. It's a good 1 hour 2 hour activity, but it's worthwhile, the activity, because you are preparing yourself mentally, financially, physically for that goal
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
have in mind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Anand Verma has a question. A SWOT analysis.
Hmm.
SWOT, SWOT
Yes.
analysis. He's
Yes.
asking a question.
Yes, absolutely. Anand, it's definitely a very wonderful question. SWOT analysis is nothing but strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. Identifying. And this is for everyone. This is not only for business, this is for self, this is for, even if you're a career person, for your team members. When
Mhm.
you identify, when I'm able to sit and I'm able to write down in 4 quadrants, what are my strengths as a businessman? What are my weaknesses? Which I need to work on. What are my opportunities, like, which are the low hanging fruits which I've not really thought about, and what are my threats? Maybe my competitors, maybe my product is not that good. If I have those 4 blocks written out very clearly, I will be able to work on them very, in a proper way. Strength, I will use it for my benefit. I will leverage my strength, and I will use my strength to overpower or combat my weakness or opportunity area. I will work on my opportunities by using my strength, and my threats, I will use it. I will kind of cocoon it, and I will say, okay, let me get out of it by XYZ methods. So a
Mhm.
wonderful question, and I think every single person, as a part of goal setting as well, every single person should go through a SWOT analysis. It gives you a completely holistic view to the situation. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So talking about moving ahead on the business startup plan, I think, we've spoken about finding our niche, writing out our goal, researching a lot. I think the next thing that I want to talk about is, and something which I see a lot of businessmen faltering, and uh, statistically speaking, more than 50% businesses don't go beyond 5 years. We
Okay.
see that. Yeah. I mean, over, it's not only in India, across the globe, not more than 50% of businesses go more than 5 years, because they do not have a business contingency plan, because they have not lined up their finances, in a particular way. How I would go about it, or how I advocate to everyone, is whenever you start a new thing, a new business, generally what people do is they take their costs in mind, and they put that surplus amount into a bank account or wherever they want to put it. I would say, add up all your cost because a business is like, it's like, getting your own house, starting it from again, no, restarting
Yeah.
it, not renovating, but actually building a taking a plot and start building your own house. It's like that.
Mm.
Anything and everything can go wrong or go right into that plan. So whatever your add up costs have been, for example, I say for the next 1 year, I will need, say, 5 lakh rupees, for example.
Yeah.
As per my calculation, as per my add on costs, I would keep into my bank account multiplied by 4 times. I would quadruple that cost, and that I will keep as a surplus or investment in my bank account for
Mm.
those, winter days, or for those days which have not been very fruitful. So business is like, Rekha, I say it, uh, it's like digging the well every day and drinking water out of it every day. It's like fetching
Mm.
water out of it every day. It's like it's like it's never going to be a sustainable income unless you have a sustained 5 year 6 year business, and then you have a auto mode, autopilot mode on. But in the beginning, you need to keep your finances ready. If you say that I'm good with this amount because I've calculated this, it'll never work. You'll come to a
Yeah. You have
situation. Yeah, you have to keep a
money for
backup.
rainy days. Yeah. Backup.
Absolutely. Rightly said, money for rainy days. And I would generally, multiply it by 4 times and keep it. The second thing is, uh, of your household income. You know, keep your household income, keep your household expenses completely separate than your business, because that
Mm.
sometimes people mix it up, and especially when you're the individual person who's running your house as well as running your business, especially of that sort. I mean, if you have multiple other people who are supporting your house, wonderful, that's a gift of the gab, I would say. But if you're not, then in that case, at least you should have a backup. And this is something which I read and I've heard from a lot of people as well. You should have a backup for your entire household income, for expenses for at least 1.5 to 2 years minimum, kept aside, you know because, and you have to treat it in such a way that this business of yours will not give you a single penny
Yeah.
profit for at least 1.5 2 years. Any business, to sustain and to actually, I would say, break even, break even is like no profit no loss. Whatever I've invested, I have got the return. To reach
Mm.
that stage, any business will take at least minimum 1.5 to 2 years. I mean, if you're lucky, if you got better before that,
Yeah.
but generally, statistically, it takes that much time. So keeping your finances for your business multiplied by 4 times, and keeping your finances for your household separately, is very, very important. Otherwise, you will reach a stage in your life, 3 4 6 months, 1 year down the line, where you say, oh my god, business is not giving me returns. It will not. It will only give you break even state by 1 year, 1.5 years, and then you start to multiply from there. Yeah. Okay.
That's true. Very good.
Yeah, and forecasting is very important. Forecasting, that's exactly why I say business contingency plan. If you have a startup, forecasting will not be, you don't have the trends of your business. But if you are getting into a situation where you have done this business before, and you're kind of, after a sabbatical, a lot of people restart it again, then you may want to look at the forecast as well. You may want to look at how the last year, this situation, this month has been, or
Mm.
how the last 3 years, this particular quarter has been. Accordingly, keep your finances ready. So forecasting, trending, analyzing your trends, that's something, you can work it out. Okay.
Okay.
uh
So
yeah,
why
sorry.
do you think starting up your business while you're employed is very important, or it's a good option?
It is. I thank you for that question, Rekha, because that's something which a lot of people ask me, and it is definitely important because, you know, starting up a business is denting your pocket. While it may be very fruitful in the later stages, but it is definitely going to dent your
Mm.
pocket. So if you are lucky, if you have that, not lucky, I would say, if you're fortunate to have a business or to have a job as well alongside, it will be a good idea, because you'll have a stable income. That I was talking about, the household stuff. You'll have a stable income which you can run your household through. You don't have to worry about that part of the story. And also, you may get some extra cash flow for your business. uh,
Yeah.
Specifically, if you have businesses like, these days a lot of digital businesses are going on, or a lot of online businesses are going on. Yeah, you can, or businesses which are running over, maybe weekends, which you can afford to run over weekends. Those you can start, parallelly along with your, working with while you're employed as well. So that, you don't have to really, jump into your business and then realize after 3 months, 6 months, no, it was not a good plan. So generally a lot of people think that business people or successful entrepreneurs are risk takers, but actually the fact is, entrepreneurs who are successful, they don't like to go blindfolded into anything. They
Yeah.
want to take calculative risks. So this is the, I think you really pointed out the right one. While working, if you're doing it, it's being the most calculative risk. I've seen a lot of people do that. They start their career or their business career while they are working, and then once they see the elevation mode up, that's when you decide to, give away a job, or even if you can continue as well, but that's when you kind of take it full
Mhm.
swing. Yeah, I hope that answered your question, Rekha.
Yes, yes, definitely. Very nicely, very well said.
Okay, great, great. The other thing that I want to point out, Rekha, for from a business startup perspective, is that a lot of times I've seen people want to do everything. I mean, we are,
Hmm.
as humans, some of us are very control freak. It's my
Yeah.
baby, I want to do it. I want to do the marketing also, I want to do the designing also, I want to do the production also, I want to do everything, the editing also, everything. But we need to
Hmm.
understand that a business, like I said earlier, is a whole unit. It will have various, like a machinery, it will have various parts to it, and not all parts can be in your control. You can't run all the parts. So
Yeah.
as the earlier, the faster we understand that as an entrepreneur, the better it is for us. For example, I'll give you again, a lot of times I've seen, uh, I had this client who wanted to go, in a digital space. Okay, so and he was very good into his own production. They are into manufacturing of goods, some product. So they are very good in manufacturing. But when it comes to going into the digital space, they wanted to get into the app business. They wanted to, go full swing on the app and on the internet and social media, etc. But they were not very equipped with that entire concept of social media. But they
Mhm.
also did not have trust on someone to hire someone and get into the social media game. So what happened is, and that's when I pushed them and I showed them the, the goodness of that, and how you can get an expert to do that job for you. Just tell them that, this is what you want, this is the multiples that you're looking at. That's when they hired a digital marketing expert and they've hired a social media expert, and that the business started to grow. Otherwise, what will happen is, he being a production expert, he was wasting a lot of his time only in designing those
Hmm.
brochures and sending emails and sending out posts, etc. So I would suggest, let the experts do their job. You need
Yeah.
to seek professional help at every stage of life in your business as well. As a business coach, I say that because I have seen a lot of people not coming to business coaches. Business coach can add value to your business. Social media experts can add value to your business. Accountants, a lot of times I've seen people being sucked into accountancy books. The businessman, the owner of the shop, is only behind his accountancy book. Where will you get the time to expand your business? You will not.
You have to outsource certain
Exactly.
so
You have to outsource certain things. You have to let go of certain things, because the more bandwidth you are utilizing, the lesser your chances to grow. you know
Mhm.
as a businessman, you have to be constantly thinking, constantly innovating ideas. How do I grow my business? How do I grow my business? But if you are into all these teeny meeny activities, your BAU activities, like we say, business as usual activities, you will
Yeah.
never be able to get your focus on to growing your business. So that's very, very important.
So what kind of work can be outsourced?
Like a lot of things can be outsourced. Again, you need to understand what you are good at in a business. What I'm good at, if
Yeah.
you're the if you're the product, if you're the service, if you are the brand ambassador, obviously your work you can do best. For example, like I just mentioned, gave you an example of the product manufacturer, or a fashion designer, or an interior designer. If you are good at something, just do that. I'll give an example of e-commerce as well. There are a lot of e-commerce setups these days. A lot of people
Mhm.
pick up distribution channels, and they have e-commerce, small e-commerce units. Now, you may want to take that control of the e-commerce, selecting the products, maintaining a stock, using your stock in the warehouse, all of that. But do you want to get into logistics? Do you want to also be charge of the courier? That's a very humongous task. So courier is one thing you can outsource. You can outsource it to a different company, saying, okay, I'm going to give you these packets, these need to be delivered. I don't need to get into the tension of that. You can also outsource, like I said, social media. A lot of people, we are not adept at social media. Fine, you can outsource that. You can outsource the designing piece, you can outsource the editing piece. I do that. I make a lot of videos. I'm very good at making the videos, but I'm not good at editing it, so I can outsource that. I don't want to spend my time and energy into 5 hours of editing the video. I don't want to do that, so I can outsource that. So you know so things which you are good at, keep for yourself. Things which you think only you can do, keep for yourself. Things which you think are tasks which can be distributed or kind of delegated, outsource them. Yeah.
Suyo Kale is asking, how do one decide whether he or she should start business alone or with any partner having common goals?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So yeah, you can decide to, if you have the complete competency, to start by yourself. And I think collaboration is the key these days. Collaboration, getting together. We are in a physically and and digitally growing world. Collaboration, as much as people were afraid of earlier, that partnering with someone will take away the merits from the business, I think these days it's more about collaboration and working together. You can get to benefit from each other's businesses. You can get to grow each other's businesses. You can have more client base if you collaborate. Again, but rightly said, if you have a common goal, if you have a common objective, only then collaboration makes sense. If one partner is talking X and the other partner is talking Y, or they have their own intent behind it, then the collaboration will not make sense. But I think definitely, if you want to collaborate, it will give you a lot of merits than the demerits, but equate it with the common goal perspective or a common vision perspective. Yeah. Okay, so talking next about if you want to build your business, I think very important is building systems. Again, coming back to the same point of what to outsource, what not to outsource. I think in that eventuality, once you start doing your business, you will come to know which of the things can be auto moded or in an autopilot mode, which of the things could be system oriented or process oriented rather than a person oriented. So those things, the faster you build your system of your business, the better it is going to be. If you are dependent on a person, it'll only fall flat, because the moment the person goes out from your business will go down again. So try and automate it, or try and mechanize it, is what I would say. Build systems around it rather than making it more person specific. Try to make your business process specific. So that ways you can also elevate your business, grow your business, and not even depend on X person, XYZ person. Yeah. The other thing, and rightly in the beginning that you mentioned, Rekha, is that's something which is my favorite topic, I would say, is one thing which holds a lot of people back and they don't take the first leap or the jump, is procrastination. Right? That's something which I have seen people have immense ideas. I have met people in these 3-4 years who have immense business ideas, immense business plans, something which I feel like, if this person would have walked on that path, he would have done wonders around it. But what is the one thing that has held him back? Procrastination. It's like, just he's thinking, and that thinking becomes overthinking, and that's when you're only sitting at that one place and saying, oh God, after it's 3 years gone, but I didn't even start, So I would say, all I would say, and something which, two things. I think procrastination is only mainly two things. There are multiple things, but mainly I've seen in people, very prominent, is only two things lead to procrastination. One is the seek of perfection. Someone seeks perfectionism in his work, that's when you start to procrastinate. If you say that I will only launch my business the day when I have a 5-star facility and chandeliers in my office and AC in my office and so many client base, that will never happen. You have to start somewhere. I know there are some things which are basic minimum. If you want to start your business, you need to have a GST ID, you need to have a sales tax number, you need to have your company registered, all of that. You need to have a business plan in place. But once you've done that, kickstart it. Go ahead and do it. Rather than saying, no, I will only start when this happens. When will that happen? None of us knows. It's only about getting that thrust on, starting it, and then elevating it, improvising your own self, seeing your own progress month on month, day on day. The second is fear of the unknown. That's the
Okay.
second reason for procrastination. A lot of times people say, what if this will happen? What if that will happen? My answer to them is, if you're looking at the negative, look at the positive also. And that's what NLP teaches us. This is wonderful Cartesian questions that I've again talked about in one of my videos. Is when you look at the generally, as a human tendency, we have a tendency to look at the worst case situation. Oh my god, what if this will not work? What if my business will not succeed? What if I become, I go from riches to rags? But have you also seen, what if this works? What will happen if this happens? What will happen if you achieve the success? What will happen if you achieve this result? What are the goodness that you have? So look at the best case scenario and the worst case scenario, and which of it looks to you, appeals to you, go on that direction. I think that is very, very important. Best case is something which people ignore a lot of times, and that's why they get into that procrastination loop. Yeah.
Okay. Anand Verma has a question.
Mhm.
Are there any pointers that indicate that some person it will be good, it will be a good partner? Any boxes to tick?
I'm sorry. Are there any?
Are there any pointers that indicate that some person it will be a good partner? Any boxes to tick?
Absolutely. Like I said, common goals is definitely one of them. Do your values match? I think that's very important. When you're working with someone, even in an organization, even in, when you, obviously in your organization you can't choose your boss, but when you're working with someone, you can choose your partner. So a good understanding should be that, do your values, do your belief system match? Are you in sync? For example, I'll just give you an example. If you are a person who believes in giving back to the society, if you're a person who believes in, humility and kindness, or or being a little, also providing back to the society, and if you get a partner who is always into that money zone, who's always looking at profits, good, it's very nice. It's growth is something which is good. But he or she is only into growth mindset, he's only into the acceleration mindset. At
Yeah.
some point in time in your career, at some point in time in your journey, you will have a mismatch, because those are contradicting values. So your value alignment is very, very important. Your values, list down your values, think about it. And this will not happen over one conversation, obviously. It's good to have a partner, or it's good to have a working partner whom you have known for quite some time. And if it's better if you have worked with that person earlier. Friends becoming partners also is dangerous sometimes, because
Okay.
a lot of times friendship is a different relationship altogether. But when you get into the partner zone, when money matters come in, I've seen a lot of people, best of friends, have gone apart because of business rivalry. So it's good to have common goal, it's good to have common values, similar values if not common. And it's also good to test, just like I said in the earlier part, where you can work alongside your job and you can start your business. Similarly, if you can give a try with a partnership without any obligations, try working together, try working it out and see if it works. Maybe 3 4 6 months down the line, then you can collaborate and you can form a proper partnership form. That could be done. Yeah.
So how do you set your goals for achievements?
How to set your goals for achievements? Like I said, they need to be really, really specific. Really, really, when I say specific, it needs to involve everything. When I say specific, I'll give you an example. For example, if I want to say that I want to become a book writer, okay, I want to become a successful book writer, is that a goal? I would say no.
Yeah.
What does successful book writer mean? uh, Successful book writer means, for me, I would say, okay, which means I want to write a book with, say for example, 200 pages with 20 chapters, and I need to sell that book to at least 100 people. that will make me a successful book writer. And by
Mm.
when? By the end of 2 years or 1 year or whatever. So basically I'm involving date, time, when, how, where, how will I do it, and also I'm involving all my senses into it, the VAKs, the visual, auditory, kinesthetic senses. How will I feel if when I get that success? How will I What will I see when I get that success? I will see myself signing autographs for people in that book. Is that the
Mm.
success that I'm looking for? What will I hear? I will hear accolades from people. So when you involve all these senses, and that's why I say it's important, Rekha, is because a lot of times I've seen people supersede what they had planned. They have already achieved that, but they still are cribbing about, oh, I'm not a successful businessman. I don't know
Mm.
why. Or I've not reached success. I don't know why. Because you don't know when you started out that journey. Now, has it ever happened that you go and sit in a bus and you say, I don't want to go to Lucknow, or
Mm.
I don't want to go to Patna, or I don't want to go to Jamshedpur? You will say, I want to go to Kashmir, or I want to go to somewhere, right? So you know the destination. And then when you reach the destination, you know you've acquired it. Similar is the case with the goal setting. You need to know what your destination will look like. That's very important. Yeah.
Vikram Verma has a question. How do you draw a line between two people who would always contradict each other as opposed to effectively balance each other's approaches?
How would you draw a line?
Between two people who would always contradict each other as
Mhm.
opposed to effectively balance each other's approaches.
I think being empathetic is very important in this situation.
Okay.
One of them at least has to be empathetic,
Mm.
because if both of them are, there are people who, I mean, we've seen people who like to negate onto anything that you say, not because they are negative in nature, but they have a point or they have an opinion on anything and everything. That does not make them bad or wrong. It is just
Mm.
that they want to put there, okay, this is right, but I want to add on something. It could be various reasons why they are doing that. But if I am not empathetic, if I am not understanding where he is coming from, I will
Mm.
jump into a situation and say, or I'll feel offensive, or I'll feel, it'll feel condescending for me that person has negated me. So it's important to be empathetic. That's the first ground rule. And understand from where the person is coming from, and acknowledge. I think that's something which I do myself as well, even in my
Mm.
training sessions, even with my clients. You don't have to prove to someone that you know better than them. You
Yeah.
know how much, right? So even if you tell me you're wrong, I will smile and say, wonderful, I agree that I'm wrong. I may learn from you. So that is the way you deal with that kind of a person, with humility, with empathy. And then you say, okay, I acknowledge your point. This is what I need to say as well. You may want to take it, you may not want to take it. That's up to you.
Mm.
That's like
Yeah.
drawing a thin line without fighting with that person as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So thanks Vikram for that question. It was an interesting one though. Okay, great. So coming back to business, and procrastination. I think one more thing that I tell people when it comes to procrastination: overwhelming tasks or overwhelming targets are something which lead to procrastination. Like if I take a
Mm.
really overwhelming goal for myself, for my company, or for myself as well, it looks very heavy on me, and that's the reason why I procrastinate and I don't even plan to start. So the best thing is chunk it down into pieces, into smaller pieces. If I want to reach a goal, if I want to say I want to stabilize my income at $1 million by the end of this year, it looks like a very huge plan, it looks like a very huge goal, right? What will I do? I will chunk it down into 6 monthly plan, I will chunk it down into quarterly plan, I will chunk it down into monthly plan, and I will chunk it down into weekly as well. So just like we do in
Mm.
our offices and our corporates, we do a weekly review, we do a monthly review, we do a quarterly review. Do that review internally with yourself, or you may want to hire someone to do that review with you. That's the job. One of the jobs of the business coach is that as well. I do a review with my clients on a monthly
Mm.
basis. What have you achieved now? Or how far have we gone? So you can do that as well. Yeah.
So that is how a coach can help a person for a startup, a person who wants to start a
Absolutely.
business.
Absolutely. I think the biggest job of I think the biggest, not job, but the biggest advantage of having a coach is you're also having an accountability partner with you. You know, a
Yes.
coach is like someone who's walking alongside with you. A coach is not going to guide you, Rekha. I think that's something which a lot of people mistake from a coach, that the coach is not going to run your business. The coach may or may not be subject matter expert of your business. Now, for example, when I talk about fashion designers, I told you I have a lot of clients who are fashion designers. Am I
Mm.
a fashion designer myself? No, I know nothing about the fashion industry, to be very honest. You know, what sells where, I have no clue. But I'm a successful business coach for them. Reason being, because I know how to strategize them, how to help them strategize their own plan. They know their business. I will help them chalk out that plan with them. I will do their reviews on a monthly, weekly basis. I will, help them come up with their own solutions in a way that is fruitful for them. A lot of times, and all these procrastination loops, I will get them out of those. I will get them
Mm.
out of those fears people have. I mean, people at I've seen seniors people, extremely senior people, having fears of, I would not say fear, also phobia of social media. They don't want to put up their name on social media. They don't
Mm.
want to put up their ads on social media. They don't want to talk on social media, while this is the selling, we all know social media is the selling
Yeah.
point right now. That's the marketplace. But they lack in that. So I
Yeah.
help those kind of behaviors. So as a business coach, you can actually bring out the best in that person to be able to perform in his own arena, which
Yeah.
has been hidden for a long time.
And talking about the mistakes, what are the mistakes that business owners generally make?
One of the things that I said is, don't line up the money for the future, don't line up the investment for the future. I think that's something which a major, I've seen a lot of business owners do that. Expectation, over expectation. You should always over expect when it comes to your expenses, not your income.
Mm.
We have over expectations on our income and less expectations from our expenses. We think, okay, itne mein kharcha ho jayega, but ultimately the income comes down. So, give a steady start, have a very clear mindset, have a very, making your mindset is very important, that for 1 year, 1.5 years, nothing is going to come. If it comes, it's going to be a benefit only, it's going to be a gift for me, right? But
Yeah.
that expectation is very important, because psychologically, if you're prepared that this is going to be, this 1 year is going to be heavy on me, or this 1 year is going to be no profit, no loss, then it's going to be a good kickstart for me. That's one of the biggest mistakes that people do. The other mistake that people do is, people don't reach out to the right audience. People
Yeah.
don't reach out to the right audience. That's why I said, finding your niche, finding your target audience, finding who to sell what is very important. I mean, uh, like, also, if you've heard about this concept, WIFM, what's in it for me? That's again
Mm.
one of the sales concepts. So people don't want to buy what I want to sell. People
Mm.
want to buy what they want to buy, right? So
Yeah.
I need to package my product in a way that, oh, this is for you only. This is absolutely for you. It's not for me. It's tailor made for you. But if you say that, this is my product, this is what it is offering, no one will buy. So you
Mm.
have to publicize yourself, or you have to promote yourself or your product in such a way that the customer looks at it from WIFM perspective, which is as a solution for him rather than your offering to that person.
Yeah.
So that's one of the key things that I find, mistakes I would say, that business owners do. They are promoting their product as if they want to sell. But if you want to sell, there's no one out there to buy it. You have to
Mm.
look for buyers. So you have to look at what the buyer is looking at. That's very important.
See for their needs, what they
Absolutely, looking for their needs. Absolutely.
Veena Pujar has a question. How do you help them in coming out of phobias?
Lot of things, lot of ways. NLP has a fast phobia technique as well. We have, timeline therapy as well, which helps people come out of phobia. NLP has a long drawn past. It also relates to hypnotherapy, etc. So, phobias are something, it could be, phobias are small things and large things as well. I mean, people could have phobias of animals, and people could have phobias of, of a past memory as well, or something major than that as well.
Yeah.
So phobias are important to remove, because otherwise, you're held on to it for the rest of your life. And it's important to let go of that. If you let
Mm.
go of your past which is bothering you, only then you are able to move ahead with that free space and free mind. Otherwise, that your mind is always occupied with that negative influence. So it's very important to let go of that. So NLP therapies can definitely work wonders. I've done myself, and I've treated a lot of people with phobias. It really works wonders. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. What is the difference between a coach, consultant, and a mentor?
Oh, that's a nice question, Rekha. A lot of I was hoping that someone would put that up, but yeah, it is definitely. I would like to take this up because that's a mistake that a lot of people, when people come to me as well and say, you're a consultant or you're a counselor or you're a mentor or you're a coach. So the bifurcation or the classification goes like this: a mentor or a consultant will be someone who has the subject matter expertise of that field, right? Now, I can be a mentor to a coach. I can be a mentor to a trainer. I can be a mentor to someone who has worked, who wants to grow in my field, for content writing field, or I also have an insurance business, or someone who wants to grow in my field and I have complete knowledge of that. That is a mentor or a consultant, right? Where I can guide that person, I can advise that person. A mentor will advise you, a mentor will guide you, do this, do that, this will be good for your company, that will be good for your company, etc. And that is a mentorship, under a guidance, right? A coach is someone who will let you know, who will also guide you, but he'll hold your hand and he'll take you through a journey which you want to go. He will explore you, he will let you explore more about yourself. He will let you explore more about what you want in life. Like I said, the goal setting, the timeline, those are the things which a coach can do with you, because he will help you find out your resources. What do you have within yourself which you can elevate and which you can grow within yourself? So a coach is more like, I would say, a guide by the side, a friend, who will work towards a common objective with you, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Veena Pooja has a question. What's the success rate?
What's the success rate for
Yeah.
any business startup?
Yeah,
For any
maybe for a
business
start.
startup. Okay, okay.
You must
So
be meaning that.
yeah,
I suppose, yes.
yeah. Since we're talking about business startup, I'm
Yes.
sure that's the
Yes.
she's might be meaning that. So success rate with respect to different stages. Statistically, I will now quote something which is as per the global standards. So any business startup, I think 75 to 80% sail through the 3 month, 6 month mark. And like I said in the beginning, to sustain it till 5 years, which is like the ideal plan to have, less than 50%. Less than 50% businesses sail through the 5 year mark. 70-80% sail through 6 months plan, because that's the BCP or the business contingency plan that they have prepared. But after 6 months, they kind of either submerge or they're not able to sustain it, etc. That's the success rate.
Anand is asking, what should be the percentage of loan to be taken and what are the thumb rules?
What is the percentage of loan to be taken? Any loan, not only the business loan or the home loan, any loan. The thumb rule for a loan is that whatever is your income, whether it is from your business, whether it's from your job, whether it's from your ad hoc, any rental income coming or anything, whatever is your incoming amount in the house, not more than 50% should be your EMI or should be your monthly installment going out in the form of loan, any loan put together. So if you're taking a house loan, if you're taking a business loan, and if your salary is 1 lakh rupees, and if you end up spending 60,000 or 70,000 as a loan, that's like a loan EMI. That's like over the top, because you're going to have no saving at all then, because you have your
So what
expenses as
percentage do
well.
you suggest? Say the salary is 1 lakh a month. What should be the
40,
EMI?
40, 45 maximum, 45,000 maximum. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll not give a dent otherwise on your pocket, Otherwise, it'll be a huge, you'll not have a saving, you'll not have a living, you'll not have a lifestyle. You'll be like really hand to mouth. It'll be, a very tight spot situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Veena Pooja is saying thanks.
You're welcome, Veena. You're welcome. And I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yes.
So going back to one more thing that I want to talk about from a business startup perspective is that you need to be your own sales promoter. That's one thing, that one of the mistakes, or one of the, not a mistake, I would say, one of a drawback, I would say, people I've seen in businessmen, they are so good at their product market, products, creating their product. But when it comes to talking about their product or selling their product or marketing their product, that's something which they fall flat on. So talk about your product in any and every arena. Promote yourself. A lot of people I've seen get jitters when they market their product, or if they have to, for example, it's a social media platform. If you have to talk about your own product with your own relatives and friends, they feel very shy in doing that. They feel very averse in doing that. They say, no, 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 I don't want to go out there and talk to my relatives. What will they think about me? That he or she is only talking to me for a reason, or for some benefit of theirs. That's not the case. It's a, like I say, it's a physically and economically growing world. We all understand everyone out there is doing some kind of business, or some or the other business, or some or the other sales. So it's important to promote. If you're convinced with your own product, you can sell it better than anyone else, and you need to be convinced with your own product. So it's important to be your self promoter. That's very, very important. And in any arena, in any platform, you should be able to stand up there and talk about your own product or your service or yourself, if you're your own brand ambassador, for example. So yeah, that's one thing that I would strongly promote people to do.
Great.
Yeah. And the last thing is, Rekha, I think digital world, I think we should really leverage. A lot of businessmen, business startups I've seen, they still are very not sure of venturing themselves out in the digital platform, whether it is Facebook, whether it is Instagram, whether it is LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever. They're not very sure of whether they should go ahead and market themselves there. I think that's a very strong. We are all out there. The world revolves around social media these days. From a 4-year-old child to a 70-year-old man, I think even beyond that, everyone is on the social media these days. So that's the reality. That's the moment of truth that we are living in. So I think this is something which I would want to promote to all business startups, or in fact every businessman on who's listening to me right now, is that please go digital. If you don't know how to do it, learn about it, hire someone, but do digital, because that will help you promote. You can scale up your business like anything if you go digital. If you're not going digital, you're only what do you say, kuwe ka mendak, you're in the same
Yeah,
pond. Yeah, you're in the same pond. You'll only be able to sell to 10, 15, 20, 100 people. But if you put your product out there, you never know, you could sell to million of people. Right now I have Rekha, and it's amazing, I have personally recommended a lot of my friends, a lot of my acquaintances and people who I know, clients as well, uh, simple products, like simple artifacts, DIY products. People, housewives who are sitting at home making those lovely products out of nothing. They make make things out of scrap. All that you need to do is, these days, you need to just make it beautiful, put some good collages, put it online, and you'll be amazed to see that the kind of business they are doing. They are really, really doing very good business, and it's satisfactory also, because they are putting their
yeah.
heart into that job, and they are reaching out to the world. Forget about the money aspect, but it's like, you can showcase your talent out there. So yeah, I think I am a strong promoter of going digital. Talking about if you have a talent, if you have a product, or if you have a service which should reach out to the market, I think this is the right place you should do that. And
So what is your opinion about my platform?
I was about to say that only. Thanks to people like Rekha, I think Women at Rise is a wonderful. I have been a part of it. I've seen all your your site as well. It's a wonderful platform for budding entrepreneurs to come together, to see each other's growth, and to also promote each other. I think it's a wonderful platform. It's definitely, I would promote you, and I would be part of. I would love to be part of your platform forever, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
It is very good in today's world. A good way of advertising.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, there's one more question. What is cross pollination? Can you give some examples?
Yeah, that's a lovely one. Cross pollination. Okay. So this is something which I uh, use as well. cross-pollination is if you have 2 or 3 businesses. Cross-pollination is nothing but, kind of utilizing 2 environments in one place, basically, right? So if you have 2 or 3 businesses, you have a client base in each business, right? Or you have best practices in each business, or you have employees in each business. So cross-pollination basically allows you to leverage the benefits of both the businesses together. So
Okay.
yeah, so and you can get more output out of less input, because in both these businesses you have a stable environment, you have a stable process which is running. So if you're utilizing it in the other business, if you're starting up new, for example, if you are uh, okay, so I'll quote an example of one of my clients who is right now into a jewelry business. Okay, and she wants to start up a distribution franchisee business, so more like an e-commerce setup. Okay,
Yeah.
so she wants to, now look at some other product lines, and also, go again, go digital around it. Something that I've asked her to do very, very strongly. So when she does that, she already has a client base of more than 5,000, 10,000 people in her business, in her existing business. So that could also be a very good kickstart for her to channelize, to kind of visibilize her new product to those people, and then, also put it on the platform. So that ways, you already have an existing, meat, I would say, existing portfolio for yourself, for your new business. You don't have to go out there and reinvent again. So that's cross pollination.
Wonderful, wonderful. Veena Pooja has one more question.
Yeah.
Could you explain what problems we might come across by going digital and how to solve those?
By going digital, what problems we might come across? You might, like I said in the beginning, target audience. If you don't know the right target audience, you would be shooting in all directions and you may not get the results. You may get frustrated very soon. So if you know what is your target audience, you'll be able to put out there appropriate content, appropriate information, attract right audience, and you may get good results. But if you don't know that, then you're up for failure. The other thing is, if you don't know the digital platform, the algorithms very well, that's also very important to know. So every platform has a different algorithm. Facebook has a different algorithm, Instagram has a different way of working, YouTube has a different algorithm. If you don't reach out to the audience through that algorithm, you will feel, very disappointed after some time. So a good way is, there are a lot of digital marketing courses available these days at, I mean, at a very throwaway price. You can enroll to that, or you can take help. You can learn from others. I have learned it from my daughter, to be very honest. I learned the Instagram algorithms to my daughter. She's a growing up teenager. I learned from her. I have no qualms in saying that. And obviously, you can research online and you can, talk about it. You can learn from your friends. But yeah, do some research before going digital, because there are a lot of nuances to it as well. What you should do, what you should not do, what you should be careful about. There are a lot of fake accounts. Again, in digital marketing, while you go digital, I would not propose any paid followers or paid viewers. A lot of
Yeah.
people fall into that trap. It's a very
It has to be
common
an
trap.
organic growth. Organic
Absolutely, it
growth.
has to be an organic growth, because whom are you fooling? It's your business. Unless and
Yes.
until you want to become an influencer of that sort, that's a different line altogether. But it's your business. What is it going to do if you have 5,000 followers but not a single customer coming to you? It's not going to be of any use. You're only going to
Yes.
pump in money into the wrong place. So it's important to think wisely before you invest into digital. And that brings me to my last point, which is, while you're a businessman, business entrepreneur, or startup person, I think, while you have your passion, but passion along with wisdom is very important, because a lot of times, passion makes you over ambitious. Passion makes you do crazy things. you know
Yes.
I have myself done that. I've seen that. It makes you do a lot of crazy things. You want to plunge into everything. You want to do everything best for your business, but wisdom and knowledge and checkpoints are very, very important. So I would put it as a very good example. I use it. If you're driving a car, the business is your car, your accelerator is your passion, but your steering wheel is your wisdom. So put your accelerator, but take care of your steering wheel as well, because that's going to give you the right direction in your life.
Fantastic example. Very good.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
well said. Veena Pujari is saying, I would love to collaborate with Vikram and Swati. Wonderful rise, though.
Thank you, Veena.
She's saying
Definitely would
thank
love
you,
to do
ma'am.
that. Thank you, Veena. Thank you for being there. I would love to collaborate as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think any more questions from the audience? No.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the session has gone very well. You have told us everything about how to start a business and what are the points to be considered and all. It was a very informative session. And I want to thank you, Swati, for coming here to my platform and giving your precious time. And just I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Thank you very much, Rekha. It was indeed a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. It's a wonderful job that you're doing with Women at Rise. I think it's a wonderful platform. I'm very happy to be associated with you and your platform. And wish you all the best. And for everyone who's watching me, you can look at my platforms. Mind Coach Swati is the platform. I mean, the ID that you can go to. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on YouTube. So, yeah, you can reach out to me for any of your business requirements. I'll be more than happy to
Yeah, you
assist
can
you.
put in your details there in the comment box.
Sure,
You
I will
can
do
put
that.
in
Yeah,
all the details, yeah, so that it reaches everyone. And I want
sure.
to thank the audience also. And I'm sure everyone enjoyed. They are very excited for Diwali, as am I. So
Yeah,
for this
absolutely.
reason, Rise is taking a break for 2 sessions, and we will come on 20th. Till then, take care, stay safe, and I wish you all a very happy Diwali.
Yeah, I wish you a very happy Diwali, everyone, and stay safe.
Thank you,
Thank
Swati.
you.
Thank you very
Thank you, Rekha. Thank you. Bye bye.
much. Bye.